In case we put you to sleep. All good? I'm waiting a few more. So, all right. We got the loyal crowd right here.
Yeah.
So.
They thought y'all would still be back there pulling out some trades. Thought you had a couple more trades.
We'll save them for next year. So that's what the spring is for.
You guys can start with questions.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, look, just real quick. I mean, again, another productive day for us. A lot of good conversations in the draft room. I mean, a lot of work, a lot of effort. I mean, DeMeco and I were just talking. It feels like we grinded out a win, but that's what this is about. And really, what we did today, hopefully, is continue to build the depth of our team with a lot of good quality guys. It's about competition. So, I mean, that's kind of what this day is usually about. So, you guys can go ahead and ask some questions, and we'll answer.
DeMeco, when you look at what was accomplished in all 3 days, how do you feel about where this sets you guys up and just kind of the young man you brought in?
We're very excited about all the guys that we brought in. Feel like all these guys are quality players that add to the depth, add to the competition of our team, and so we're excited about the guys. We like all the guys that we were able to pick, and we want to work with these guys. So, and we're fired up about it.
Nick, you had mentioned yesterday how Patterson was able to help provide insight on Blake. What type of insight may CJ have been able to provide on Cade, and what's your impressions of him?
Yeah, honestly, as soon as a player comes in your building, when you draft them, you can go back to a year or during the course of the fall, you always have different conversations about different players because they're always conscious of their alma mater and how they're doing. So whether it's Patterson, whether it's Will Anderson, whether it's CJ, they know our team. They know the type of people that we want in this building, and they have insight, probably better insight than maybe we even have. And I would say when you look at a lot of our players, JP, Will, C. Harris, CJ, they understand football, and they're very perceptive, so they can provide valuable insight. So we certainly, we'd be remiss if we didn't utilize that information. So it's not the driving force, but it's helpful in the overall evaluation. So if we have a question, maybe it's something that we go to Patterson with and say, hey, we're not sure about this. What are your thoughts on this? Because ultimately, it's about the players, and they're going to be sitting next to each other in this room, just like they were at their alma mater. So we'll utilize the information wherever it's provided and try to make good decision with that, with that assessment.
At several of the players that you drafted, and it's been, I think, now 2 or 3 drafts, you not only go for position versatility, but you also go for captains. What is the standout when it comes to the captain persona, just the leadership? Is it something that you covet for certain players, or just criteria, just overall thoughts when it comes to that?
Yeah, leadership comes in all different shapes and sizes. I mean, there's a reason his nickname's Cap, so that's important. Like when you wear that C on your chest, it's important. So we don't go out and say we're going to or we have to draft captains. It's usually pretty organic. It's a part of the evaluation. But if you're elected captain, it says something about what your teammates think of you. So it's not something where we're looking for a box and say, well, we're just going to draft captains. Well, if it works out that way, great. But they have, obviously, they're respected by their peers, they're respected by their teammates, and like we've talked about, the type of people that we bring in this building absolutely matters, and we're always gonna put a premium on that.
When you take a look at the draft selection of Jordan, the running back, what do you think he would be able to provide to your offensive backfield?
We really like the juice that he has out of the backfield. I think he has plays with tremendous speed, so we're looking to add some speed to our backfield, and we think he provides that for us, and he also provides some special teams value as well as a returner. So really excited about the role that he's shown that he was able to do at Louisville, and excited about seeing him come in and compete here.
Nick, I know you talk about picking players more on just are they good players instead of need, but now that you're finished with the draft, do you feel like you addressed some needs that this team has?
Yeah, your team's never really a finished product. So a part of between now and honestly training camp, now we'll kind of go into the evaluation of where the team actually is. We may think it looks one way on paper. Then when we get more information here in the spring, we're going to start phase 2. So it's first opportunity, where the staff will be on the field with the players. So we're going to get more information. Then we're getting to training camp. There's a good chance the team for the most part, it'll look the way it looks today, but there might be something that pops up. I'd say what you're going to find is there'll be several players that are going to be available because of decisions or moves that other teams have made. So maybe there's an opportunity at a certain position. Maybe we think if we can upgrade the depth or add a player that has value at a certain position, that might be an opportunity for us to add that player to our team. So we're in a decent spot. We're excited about where we are. We'll probably have a lot of movement here between now and probably the end of the spring. There'll probably be some players who we move on from here over the next few weeks, but that's just the attrition that goes on this time of year. So we'll get more information as we go, Christy, and then make a decision that, ultimately we feel is best for the team.
Jamal Hill, that was, I think that was the last pick of all the assets that you guys were able to accumulate from the Sean Watson trade. And looking back, or a short period of time, how much do you think all the assets that you guys were able to accumulate help put you guys in a position now where you feel like if you had to play a game today, you guys could go and play a game today?
Yeah, honestly, that's so far in the past. You guys are keeping track of that. We haven't spent one day, second, talking about, here's the end result. So we're just adding football players to the team with the opportunities that we get, regardless of what trade took place. DeMeco and I have talked about this. We talked about it before the draft. If we have to go out there and play a game, before the draft, we felt that we'd be competitive. So in the end, it's just each year you have an opportunity to add players to your team. However you acquire the assets, you acquire them. And there's no, specific formula. So that's for you all to talk about. Honestly, we probably haven't spent time on it since we did the trade however many years ago.
Both your Nick and DeMeco, address the two players y'all pulled off of University of Southern Cal. You got the safety, you got the edge rusher. Who was looking at which one? Obviously, the safety stood out first, but was there somebody, once y'all started looking at SC, that the second one just sort of stood out, and we sort of had them ranked on the board the way you can come back and pick them up?
Since they're both defensive players, I'll defer to the head coach.
Definitely, starting with Bullock, right? You see just his ball skills, his range, back there in the deep half of the field. It's just stood out. He's an exceptional playmaker, attack the ball. It's what we are about on defense, attacking the ball. And that's what Bullock does. That's what we're looking for him to do for us. And then when it came to Bird, just looking at guys who has the traits there to play our style up front. He plays hard, relentless. He's a tough player, and then he has the skill to get after the quarterback. So we're excited about adding a guy at that point in the draft, adding a guy who had the skill set that we like, length, and he can rush the quarterback.
We got to speak to you, Nick, about this yesterday, but when it comes to Kamari Lassiter, the cornerback from Georgia, what were some things that you noticed about his film that really stood out, and what were some things that you think he can provide for this defense immediately?
Yeah, Kamari provides toughness. He provides, you talk about energy and the way he plays the game, he loves football, and it shows on the tape. It jumps off the tape. He's a versatile player. He can play inside. He can play outside. But you talk about a guy who's a leader, a guy who works hard. He's everything that our team is about. We talk about everything being relentless and attacking the day with the relentless mindset every single day. That's what Kamari brings.
Coach, you said one of the things that you like to do is to develop talent, to develop those late round guys, you bring them in and build them up. How exciting was it for you to get that wealth of talent that you got today, this last day? There were a lot of good players still available for you all.
Yeah, that's the most exciting thing to me about coaching is developing guys, seeing where they are. You select guys who have traits that you like, traits that you think will translate to helping us, and then as coaches, we have to help them, right, those next few steps to get them to maximize their talent and play to their capability, right? And so that's what I'm most excited about when you see the growth of a player from where he is once you get him to where the things you can help him, right, grow it as a player. That's why I like coaching, and that's why I enjoy coaching and seeing the development. Nobody is a finished product once we get them, but these guys, all the guys we selected have, first off, their makeup, they're all really great people, right? And that's one thing we pride ourselves on is adding great people to our locker room, and then you get to the player that we had really good players with great traits, and we're excited to work with all of them.
For Nate or DeMeco, what was some of the feedback out of Columbus in terms of work ethic, toughness? Any stories about Case Stover, things you guys heard?
Yeah, whatever it is, it's elite. I mean, this guy is as tough and hard-nosed a player that they had in the program. Just kind of going back to the question and DeMeco's answer about developing players, I'd say Kay's a good example of a player who has only played tight end for 2 years, so he's certainly not a finished product, but he has the mindset and the work ethic to improve. I mean, how he was raised. I mean, this guy is everything you want in a football player and then more. I mean, he probably played hurt this year. I mean, I think he had an MCL or had an issue where, quite frankly, it would have limited some other players, but he just braced it up and he just kept playing football. So, I mean, I don't want to speak for DeMeco, but I think we feel the same way. This is probably one of our favorite football players in the entire draft, regardless of position, because of his mentality, because of his mindset. And he still is developing as a player. I mean, 2 years ago, he was playing defensive end in the Rose Bowl against Utah. Now he's, played tight end for 2 years, and here he is getting picked in the bottom of the 4th round. And his position is, we think tight end. That's why we drafted him. So, but I mean, blue collar as they come, and from a makeup, traits, toughness, mentality. I mean, this is an elite guy.
We'll take a few more.
There was a moment where the cameras, I think it was the Texans cameras, kind of caught y'all celebrating. If it's okay. What
Which pick? I don't know. We celebrate after a bunch of them.
One in particular where you dapped DeMeco up.
I think it was Bullock.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what about that was so exciting? What about that particular moment? If it's okay to ask that.
I think it's all exciting, man. The draft is just such an exciting process, and you go through and you study so many guys, right? And you have a select number of guys that you like and guys that you will want to work with, but you never really know how it's going to shape out, because 9 times out of 10, like the other teams like the same players. So for us to get guys that we truly have kind of highlighted to start the process, guys who've always kind of stuck out in their process, and for us to get guys like that, like Stover, like Bullock, right, Lassiter, it's exciting when you're able and you know the guy that you're adding to your team, right? You know the competitor that he is, you know what type of football player he is. It's exciting. So all of our picks we were celebrating after. I don't think it was just one. We celebrate after all of them.
Oh, and like DeMeco, we have fun. And we've talked about this. I mean, the beauty of it, I mean, my respect for him is massive, but we see football through the same lens, and we're looking at a lot of the same things in players. We may have a variance of opinion, but we talk through everything. And this was a player that we had earmarked, quite frankly. We had talked about him maybe at 59 if we had the opportunity to pick him. And then I think we maneuvered. We had to move up a few spots. I think that's where we traded up. We gave 123 to move up a few slots. And we were able to get the player that we wanted because it's a player we had identified. And not that you're doing this the reason you're doing it, but the number of teams that kind of reached out to us after the pick, I mean, there was a few teams that, were basically saying they were getting ready to write the guy's name down. So it doesn't mean that we're right or wrong. It just means that, to DeMeco's point, these are players, there's certain players that you say, if we have an opportunity to add into the team, let's figure out a way to do it. Let's be responsible and not be egregious with it. And I would say in Bullock's case, I mean, that was a situation. I mean, I don't know who's more excited, DeMeco or Stephen A., but it was pretty close. So, again, we enjoy what we do. We put so much time and effort into it, and, we show that emotion. I mean, you've seen him chase the officials down the sideline, so he's faster than me, so I can't keep up.
I think all of your 6th and 7th round picks were 5-year college players, and Bird was 6 years. Are there benefits to having players that have so much experience and are maybe a little bit older?
It's a good question, Christy. It's kind of the inverse of some of the players that maybe they're all developmental players, but some have a lot of experience and have played more football, so maybe they're further along. But there's certain things technique-wise, I would say in Bird's situation, like you said, 5-6 years, however long it's been, and he's different than most college kids. I mean, he's married or has a relationship, has children, so he's pretty mature for his age. So that's certainly important, and they're approaching it. And this is a job. This is their job. And some have experienced that in college. I'd say the NIL, to a certain extent, has maybe forced different players to have a different type of mindset. So they have encountered some of the things that they're going to encounter on a day-to-day basis when they walk in our building. But Bird had a lot of experience. Henderson was a player who started, 40 games between ASU and then at Michigan last year. So you have players that are at various levels, varying levels of development, and then our job, like DeMeco said, as a staff, is to get them to perform at whatever their optimum level is to get to a point where they can perform and develop over the course of however many years it is.
Nick, I asked you about this last night about Blake and being able to move inside, but yet like you just mentioned Henderson, you picked up, he spent a lot of time at tackle, then he spent a lot of time at guard, i.e. on the left side. Is that somewhat indicating that that might be a fit that you might want to move in there and maybe can move Titus back out to tackle again? Y'all still playing with combinations? It's just something projecting down the line.
Yeah, I know that's something that's talked about quite a bit with Titus. Probably that horse has been beaten. Titus is a good football player. He's a good tackle, and hopefully have the opportunity to continue to play him at tackle. But we're just trying to get the best 5 on the field. But I'd say specific to Henderson, has experience maybe even more inside than outside. He was at Arizona State. He played some guard, so he's probably a little bit different than Blake. And even when you look at him, like physically, like they're a little bit different, even though they might be similar. So we'll see how it goes. But we think Henderson can probably play inside with the ability to bump out the tackle. Blake, like we talked about last night, probably a little bit more tackle-centric and tackle-focused. So we'll see how it goes here in the course of the spring, and then once we get into training camp for sure.
Obviously, you like all the players you drafted today. Is there a person or an area where you're especially excited about working with one of the draft picks?
Like you said, all of them are equal to me. Like, I think we've added great players on offense and great players on defense. So it's not one player in particular. I love all our picks that we had, and I'm excited to work with all of them. All our coaches, they're all fired up and excited to work with the guys that we picked as well.
One of the things
We got
that
Kim and Cole, and then we'll do a couple more.
when we talked to guys after each round, we had a chance to interview them briefly. Many of them said, when you asked them to talk about themselves, they said, they run hard, they play hard, they love football. It seemed to be the same kind of theme. Is that, I guess that's the Swarm Nness, is that what you were looking for, those kind of players?
For sure, Kim. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for players who want to swarm. That's the mentality. That's how I see football. You only got so long to play it. You give it everything you have. You play as hard as you can possibly play, exhaust all the resources to be your absolute best, and we're here to help all of our players reach their best. So I love that all the players say that, because that's kind of how I tilted. Like, those are the guys that stick out to me, guys who, and you can see it on film, guys who love playing football, guys who love playing hard. They know what it looks like, so we don't have to teach them that once they get here. Now we're focused on just honing in on the fundamentals and techniques and getting technically better as a player. But once that ball is snapped, we need everybody playing with everything they have.
Nick, kind of piggybacking off of Chrissy's question with the guys who were veteran players because of the COVID-19 eligibility waiver, is it a case-by-case study where you don't want to say we're giving them this amount of time to see where they can improve, or is it you have a certain timeline to where you want them to be able to figure it out, or you have to move on to the next pick? Yeah,
you have to treat each player as their own entity, and they're at different stages in terms of their development. I think from our perspective, their ground zero is once they walk in our building. So regardless of their level of experience, regardless of what's happened previously, when they walk in the door in 2 weeks, that's really year zero. So now then we have the opportunity to evaluate them, and every player has a different stage or different timetable relative to their development. But I would say by the time we get through sort of one cycle, rookie mini camp, spring, training camp, full season, go through an off season, we'll probably hopefully have a decent idea of where that player's arc may be. Now, if they have something that slowed their progress, which we've had a few players who kind of have lost a year, whether it was Mechie, whether it's Dylan kind of coming back from it. So it's always case by case. It's always individual. But as far as the Texans are concerned, we're respectful of what's happened in the past. But really, their clock starts once they walk in our building, and then we'll see how far along we could take them with their development.
We'll go with Sarge and DJ last.
Go ahead, DJ. All right, cool. All right, Nico, you've received the call when you've gotten drafted. Nick, obviously, you've called players when they've gotten drafted. You've obviously been in the room watching other people call players when they've gotten drafted. What's that moment like when you can tell a player, that, hey, you're about to be a Texan. What's that moment like when you hear the emotion, things of that nature? Just take us into that, and like, what is that like to basically help somebody reach their dream?
Yeah, as you can imagine, it's a moment of you talk about excitement. You talk about that their dream is finally here, right? And they're getting the call. So it's kind of hectic making some of these calls because there's so much noise going on in the background. You can hardly talk to the player, and they're full of excitement, and they're just, so happy to finally get that call. So it's an exciting moment. It's one that it's different for every individual, and it's definitely to make that call, to be on that side, to make the call, to tell a kid that their dream is coming true of playing in the NFL. I'm definitely grateful to be in this position to make those calls.
Last one, Sarge.
I know that after the season, you have to go through the process of, Senior Bowl, pro days, combine, draft. How excited are both of you all just to get back to finally doing football? I know this is football, I understand that, but just to start getting back to putting things on the field, heading towards the rookie mini camp and the OTAs and training camp and things like that.
Yeah, I'm excited to take my scouting cap off now and finally start coaching a little bit. So I'm just in the office, just locked in, just watching as many guys as I can, studying as much tape as I can when it comes to scouting all these players, so I know, who we're looking at, know what we're getting. And so, yeah, I'm excited that we got the guys we got, and we're moving forward. Now we can get on the field, get outside. That's what I'm excited about, getting outside, right, getting some sun and coaching on the grass. That's what I'm definitely looking forward to that moment.
Football season starts Monday, so we'll be on the field with the players, phase 2, so kind of transition to that. So the scouting hat, he'll put it on my head full time. So if there's any players that are still out there, then that'll be my responsibility to make sure we get them in the building. So, but it's all exciting. I think we take a lot of joy in each aspect because it's an ongoing thing. It's really a 365. I mean, that's what it is. It's year round. It doesn't really stop. I mean, okay, the draft's over for this year. Now we kind of transition to a different phase, but our scouts will start to prepare for the 25 draft. We'll start the spring scouting process. We'll take a little bit of break, but we'll kind of transition. And there's a pool of players that we've probably evaluated already who chose to come back to school, that are going to be eligible for next year's draft that we're pretty far down the road on. So then it's the next batch of players. So it's ongoing, but I mean, he tells me all the time, just take a deep breath and relax. So at some point I'll heed his advice and do it. But no, we're excited with where the team is and excited with the players that are going to come in here in a few weeks. And it's football season. I know it's baseball season, which I know everybody's miserable all of a sudden, but it's football season for us. So,
Good. All right. Thank you guys.